According to Adil Pakavala, true yoga is not about the shape of your body, but the shape of your life. Yoga is not to be performed, but to be lived. Yoga doesn't care about what you have been, it cares about the person you are becoming. Yoga is designed for a vast and profound purpose, and for it to be truly called yoga, its essence must be embodied. Let's embody yoga together. Hi, Maria here with Yoga Awakenings. Thank you for joining us again today. We are going to do the kitchen sink. This is one of my all-time favorite poses to teach. Anytime I have new students, I always teach them the kitchen sink. We typically do it in a yoga studio at the wall. Couple of reasons we call it the kitchen sink. One is it can support just about everything in the physical body, primarily the back and the shins, calves, knees, ankles, plantar fasciitis, that type of thing. And we're going to do it at the kitchen sink. So you will, if you're at a wall, ideally you'll have the elbows in at the sides, and that'll give you an indication of about where the hands will go for the shoulders. I mean, obviously my sink is a little bit lower, but what you'll do either way, if your hands are at the wall like so, or at the kitchen sink, you'll take hold of the kitchen sink. You'll step back. If you're on the wall, you'll step back both ways so that your spine is parallel to the floor. You want the ears in between the upper arms. So I see a lot of this and I see a lot of this. So the spine, the whole point here is spinal health. So you want the spine to be as straight as possible, and that includes the cervical spine, right? So if you've got your head up or you've got it down, then the cervical spine isn't going to be straight. So here's what I see a lot of. When you have tight upper backs, we've got this action going on. So the goal is to bring that heart center towards the floor, heart center towards the floor, heart center towards the floor, heart center towards the floor. So if you get the upper back here, where there may be actually a little dip there, then the next goal is to draw the shoulder blades out and down towards the floor. So what tends to happen, especially if you have tight shoulders, is when you bring the hands overhead, and this happens for like Virabhadrasana 1, when you bring the hands overhead, the shoulder blades come together. You want to roll those shoulder blades out and down. So the outer armpit comes out and down towards the floor. So that's the upper back. The lower back, so when you're in this position, you want the ankles under the knees, under the hips. So what does that mean? When you're standing at the wall, the feet aren't going to be way back here like this, and they're not going to be up here like this. Although while I'm here, on the kitchen sink, it's nice for lower back traction. You can bring the feet forward and hang and get a little traction. That might feel really yummy on the low back. And the upper back too, the shoulders. So it helps pull the shoulders out of socket. So for the purposes of what we're doing here today, you want the ankles under the knees, under the hips. Upper back, we've already worked on. We've got that exactly where we want it. So here's what I see in low backs, tight low backs. You've got the rounding here at the low back. So what I have my students do, bend your knees, lift the sits bones, lift the sits bones, lift those sits bones up towards the ceiling. So if you've got this beautiful concave back going on and you can straighten the knees, then do so. Let's see, let me get back. So if this happens when you straighten the knees, then keep them bent, because this is supporting the back. You're working on back. So with every breath, inhale, lift the sits bones, lift the sits bones a little more, lift the sits bones a little more, until one day you get the legs straight, the knees straight, and the spine is nice and healthy and juicy. Now, many of my students have tight shoulders, so to hang out there for a while becomes strenuous on the shoulders. So give yourself a break in between. And from there, we'll go into, so that's Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold at the wall or at the kitchen sink. Now we'll do Parsvottanasana, which is great for the ankles, the tight calves, all of that. When you've got tight calves, it pulls on the knees, it pulls on the ankles, and then the creates issues with plantar fasciitis. So if you've got plantar fasciitis, if you've got back pain, you should do the kitchen sink every single day, once or twice a day. In fact, I have to tell a testimonial. I had a student at one point who was getting nerve blocks in her lower back, trying to find the nerve that was creating the pain in her low back. I did a protocol on her called spinal harmonics, which is part of polarity therapy. Check that out. I did a protocol, the spinal harmonics on her, and taught her the kitchen sink, and she ended up being able to avoid surgery. So, any kind of back pain, this is a great asana to get real comfortable with. So the next one, you'll get in the same position. So start just in Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold, and then Parsvottanasana, we'll step the left foot forward and the right foot back so that you've got the feet, maybe 3.5 feet apart. Now, what you want to feel here, you want the distance enough that you can keep the hips square to the floor and square to the wall. You want to feel a little event going on in the front hamstring and a little event going on in the back calf. Now, very important, you're not walking a tightrope, so one foot's not going to be directly behind the other, but you want the outer edges of the feet parallel to one another, or in my case, because I've got lines in my tiles, I want the outer edges of my feet parallel to the lines in the tiles. So press into that back heel, press into that back heel. You should be feeling a beautiful event going on in that calf and the back foot. So that's getting that nice, fat, juicy soleus muscle, the gastrocnemius, the pretty muscle that you see on bikers and runners. The gastrocnemius are the two fat muscles on either side on the calf. Now, from there, we're going to go into getting that soleus muscle, which is the one that wreaks havoc for plantar fasciitis. Keeping that back heel grounded, micro bend that knee. Woo! I should have done the other side first because my right calf is super tight, and I don't know if you can get a very good idea. But micro bend that back knee, and it doesn't take a whole lot, and you can feel that stretch in the head of the heel all the way to the back of the knee. Woo! Juicy. All right, so we'll stay there for a few breaths. Give yourself a little break, and then let's do the other side. So step the right foot forward and the left foot back. Square yourself. So you want to feel the hamstring on the front leg. Lifting that hip up will get you there. You want to feel the calf on the back leg. Make sure the outer edges of the feet are parallel to one another. Ground in that back heel. Lift that front hip. Square into the wall, or in this case, the sink. And then we'll take a few breaths there, and then micro bend that back knee as much as you can, stretching that deep soleus muscle. Woo-wee! Feeling it. Beautiful. All right, and then step forward and give yourself a break. So that's all we have for today. The kitchen sink, Ardha Uttanasana, Parsvottanasana, getting all the pieces of the puzzle at the kitchen sink or at a wall. Using a blank wall will do the same thing. So thank you for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with all your friends. Namaste.